No, that's me. Yeah. Yeah, that's even good. And if it finishes, I'll have to unplug the other one. If it finishes, I'll have to unplug the other one. That's not bad. Get some beer, yeah? That's good one for you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you're watching us from. It's Sunday, the 3rd of April, 2022. And it's exactly 20:37 and it's 21:37. We're 7 minutes late. Apologies. We wanted to enjoy a little bit of Ponchano. Some fantastic music there from Ponchano. Welcome to the Linda Banks show on TVBAKWETU, and I'm your host, Linda Banks. Now, this program is being broadcast all across all our social media handles, as well as the Linda Banks page, Facebook page, including the TVBAKWETU page, as well as YouTube and the Elias Muncha page. So please make sure that you join us using those social media handles. Before I introduce my guest, could you kindly just let me know where you're receiving us from and how you're spending your weekend? If you feel inclined, it would be so lovely for you guys to share the broadcast to your friends and families. So just feel free to do that. And also, it is, we are within the 40 days of Lent leading up to Easter. I want to find out if you have given up anything. Have you given up anything for Lent? In this household, quite a few family members have given up meat. So I'm absolutely struggling to cook vegetarian meals and pescatarian meals. So it's all very interesting. We've got Miyamba saying good evening. Muyunda Po, good evening, everyone. I can see all those people who are sharing the broadcast. Kindly keep sharing the broadcast because I have a very interesting guest who is going to join me today. Like I said, someone is just saying, is that Muyambango Skatana saying, I remember Chella as a young broadcaster in the early 90s with Francis Ndovi. Yes, Francis Ndovi is actually still around. And we will soon be celebrating Uncle Frank Mutuila's 70th birthday very soon. So please do keep watching and look out for that. Mary Kingdom Changer says, hi, Linda Banks, my darling sister. Mutende Mwane, someone from Lamba clan. Quite a few people from YouTube. It's lovely to see you guys. We haven't been spending a lot of time connecting with you. Haggai, Simoni, good evening. Bakwetu, what's up for today? Well, stay tuned and you will find out what is up for today. Now, the interesting thing is the person that I have today, his career spans for decades. So it will be quite interesting to find out what he is currently up to. So he is a seasoned communicator, he's a broadcaster, he's a DJ, he's a master of ceremony. Actually, he's a sought after DJ as well as master of ceremony, simply because of his silky and velvety voice. You will find out why I'm saying this. He was at the top of his game in the 90s, that he actually caught the attention of this eloquent and flamboyant FTJ, the late second president of the Sovereign Republic of Zambia. His career spans decades, as I mentioned, that somehow in those decades of his career, he found some time to do teaching. And interestingly enough, he was the teacher for Mr. Tabo Kawana, who is a friend of the program, as well as many other notable politicians. So we will find out who those are. DJ CJ Chella Katwishi is his name. Mr. Chella, welcome to the program.
Hi, Linda, and good evening, viewers. Good morning, viewers. Good afternoon, viewers, wherever you're listening and watching us. Would like to say, first of all, thank you very much to BAKWETU TV and the Linda Banks show for inviting me yet again, this time as a solo interviewee on the program. I appreciate that.
Well, you're very welcome. Actually, yes, I should have said welcome back, not welcome, because you have been on this platform once with
Yeah.
Mr. Tabu Kawana, which was so lovely to have you. But I felt you didn't have a lot of time to talk about you. I was very interested in finding out more about you. Now, you're one of those few media personalities that actually have a road named after them. How did this come to be, Chella? I think
Not
Chella
aware.
seemed.
I'm here. I'm here.
Ah, mhm.
Yeah. I was not aware that a road was going to be named after me. I received a call from a very senior government official, and they told me that they have decided um, to name a road as the first surviving broadcaster uh, after they let Ali King Carter, citizen broadcaster, they let Charles Mandel, a man who I respect a lot, a man who we learned a lot from. So for me, I wondered why. I said, why me? I mean, why? What have I done? Then they started tabulating the things that I've done. I said, wow, so I've done that. So I've done that. Oh my. And only then did I realize just how much I've done in the past uh, period of broadcasting from uh, the time I joined the then ZBS. Um, Later on, the mayor then decided to take it up and they tabled it in front of the councillors. And I'm told that all the councillors voted for the idea because they don't
Mhm.
just get up and name a road somebody. In the past, a road after somebody has passed on posthumously, but they decided to be honoring people while they are surviving so that they can be in a position to um, to value what they've done and contributed for the country. You'll be shocked to learn that they asked me to choose three areas, one in Chadley.
Mhm.
No, they asked me where I had lived. I said I was born in Luwansha and I had lived in Kalundu and I had lived in Libala, stage one, and I had lived in Chilenje during my heydays as a broadcaster. So then they asked me they should, where I wanted the road to be stationed, and I said, well, or to be named. I said, I am, uh, 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 what's the term? I love the Kosogoro boys. You know, in Zambia, when you're riding a bus, the conductor will always say Kusogoro, Kusogoro. So I used to mention the guys when I was on the radio. So I said those guys fascinate me, and we had a lot
Mhm.
of them living in Livala and in Chilenge. So I
Yeah.
opted for Livala or Chilenge, and thankfully the road was uh, uh, auditioned. I wasn't there because of COVID to be able to ceremoniously, open the road. I'm yet to
Were you
see it.
still were you still in England when they did that?
I'm still in me. It just gave me the power of God to say, wherever you are, God will be able to locate you. It doesn't matter whether you're living in Zambia. If something is meant for you, God will locate you. You remember that the time I used to be on the radio, I always used to, read a passage from the Bible. So, not that I'm holier than thou, I do fall short of the glory of God, but I think that looking back, He's done a lot for me. So, to answer your question, yes, I was still in England and I'm still in England.
Excellent. We will dive deeper into that. But I just wanted to take you slightly on a different tangent before I ask you about your origin, where you were born and what sort of household you came from and what really inspired you to do journalism. So before we get into all that, a little birdie tells me that you were very nearly married to or married into the legendary Liwewe family. In fact, that you actually even sent the Tumbale. What happened?
I laugh because that story always comes up.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. I was working for the ZBS, then transitioning into ZNBC.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the then Director General of ZNBC, who saw the transition period, Dr. Stephen Moyo, decided to start bringing in graduates from various universities and so on and so forth. Some from the University of Zambia, others from the Evelyn Hahn College. And it was at that time that, may his soul rest in peace, his daughter, came on attachment in the newsroom at ZNBC then. And everybody was scared to approach her.
Why was that?
Because she was a woman of, what's the term?
Great pedigree.
Yeah, the way she carried herself, like, no one, don't approach me because
she's my mentor, so I should know.
Yeah. So Francis and I, because I used to live in the same house with Francis and Dovi, I shared the same house, and we grew up together in Libala. Anyway, we had a level to say we loved challenges, and I asked Francis and I asked Chabala Chimpampa, very good friend of mine. Every lady I dated, I think I almost asked Chabala, what do you think? And Chabala said, well, give it a go, but I doubt. So I was single then, and I gave it a shot, and she said no. So I was wondering what's going on here.
You're losing your touch.
Yeah, I went in the bathroom, looked myself in the mirror. I said, the first lady to say no. So,
you gave yourself a bit of a pep talk.
Can you
Come on, DJ, you can do this. Go back.
In those days, and I dedicated songs to her,
Oh, that is so sweet.
Yeah, Love Come Down,
very corny,
Fall in Love by Safest, and all sorts of melodies that you can think of. She's Playing Hard to Get by High Five.
Oh, yes.
So somehow the magic worked, and then she came up to say, why are you doing this? I told you, I said, what am I doing? I didn't mention names. I just a song to those who are playing hard to get. So
if the shoe fits.
Thankfully, you shocked to learn that the current Director General of Zanis, Lois Saili, they played a major role in facilitating and brokering, the talks and so on and so forth. And and then we took the dowry
in
Salam to go and try and ask her for hand in marriage, and unfortunately it took long for us to get the answer. So then we got an answer to say no. I won't mention who. We got an answer to say no. The young man he's got no money. He's childish.
Were you childish?
He's a record spit. I was a kid. As a kid, like any other kid, with a heavy load of fame
And
on
you
my
were
head.
a DJ as well. You know, in our
Exactly.
culture, DJs, young,
Yeah.
famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't
Yeah.
blame the old man. May he so rest
Yeah.
in peace.
But you see, for me, there's one thing he didn't know, that I was comfortable, but definitely not poor.
Mm,
So we let it be. But
yeah.
then she said, "No, forget it. I'm not going to listen to what Dad says." And in the end, we agreed, and she moved in. Um, so we gave
Illegally.
him,
Those days, qualify
yeah,
moved in. Vale
yeah,
moving in.
we gave them a good run for their money. And, and thankfully, she gave me a beautiful firstborn daughter, who I love very much, and in the hope that you know they would say yes, but it didn't
Yeah.
work. So
Oh.
I respect her a lot because
Mm,
she's in the industry. She's done great interviews, and at the moment, she's acquiring further education in the States. She's a good friend of mine, and she's a good friend to my current wife. And I have a lot of respect for her. So, because I believe that when you fight as mother and father of a child, it affects a child adversely. But the one thing she did is she never stopped me from seeing the child, and being in the child's life. And
yeah.
we're buddies with my daughter. She's a grown girl now and working.
She
So
is. Yeah, I know.
mm,
She's fantastic. And she's a credit to both of you. She's
yeah.
all I can say is you would have made a formidable media household, but it wasn't to be. And you both very happy in your separate families, which is really great. Now let's go back to you. Where were you born? Siblings, parents, what were they into? How did you get into the love of journalism and broadcasting? How did you become this legendary broadcaster and DJ and MC and God knows communication specialist?
I was born in a small town called Luwansha in Mikomfa, um, at number 1027.
Wow,
I,
you even
I
remember the address.
yeah. I was born on a Sunday, um, at 11:55 hours.
The day of the Lord.
Yeah. So, um, and then when I was born, my parents shoot because my mother was a teacher then.
Hmm.
And so, because she kept on moving from town to town as a teacher for special education, which is the deaf and dumb, those who have hearing challenges and speech challenges. My dad was into college then in administration. Then I went to Lusaka Boys Primary School
Mhm.
um, to go and do my primary school then. And then our headmaster was Mr. Jarvis, who was a British man. And I kept on saying to myself, one day I will be like that man. And every time we spoke the Zambian English,
Mhm.
you come here, Mr. Jarvis would smack the hell out of us, and things like that. You say, no, you don't say you come here. You say you come here, and things
Mhm.
like that. And they used to bring milk to our school then, in those times. And then from Lusaka Boys, I went to Munali Secondary School uh, for secondary education. And
Mhm.
then after that, I think the pass mark for Munali Secondary School was quite high uh, because at the time, which is now called grade 10, ours was Form 3. So I passed to go to Form 3, but I was transferred to Kafue Secondary School. I missed the mark by 1 mark at Munali Secondary School. So um, my mom says to me, listen,
I don't think Kafue Secondary School is a good school for you because it was known to be quite notorious then. And that's how they decided to send me into boarding to Mungwi Secondary School in the northern province.
Yeah.
Where I found the likes of a couple of people. By the time I was finishing, Danny Kaya was coming on the scene at Mungwi Secondary.
Yes. Yeah.
So from then, after Mungwi Secondary School, all my colleagues were going in banking, some were going to university, and so on and so forth. I was at Mungwi Secondary School with Katwishi, who is the current corporate secretary, corporation secretary for Mr. Lord Sikutu's company. What's the name again? Madison Insurance. It is.
Oh right, yes.
I can't remember the name. Sorry, let me not confuse.
That's okay.
But he's a seasoned lawyer anyway. So all our colleagues were going into all these, secondary schools, universities and so on and so forth. And I ended up in teaching. I went to Chipata Teachers Training College.
Why teaching though?
Sorry, why?
Is it because your mom was a teacher?
She felt because the foundation that if I get the teaching back, number one, I will be able to have the discipline. Number three, I will be a jack of all trades, put it that way. And before it will expose to the different cultures and different backgrounds of different people. Those were her reasons. I wasn't too happy about it, but today I give her credit.
The reason why I ask you, it's quite fascinating because most journalists, either they become authors, teachers, obviously lecturers, and I've taken the same path as you. So I was just fascinated to find out what is it about journalists that leads you to teaching somehow. Yeah.
So then after that, I went to at Lusaka Boys. I taught the life of the current Democratic Party president, Harry Kalaba.
Yes.
I taught the likes of the Mr. Gibson Chigaga's son, who was finance minister then. I taught the likes of Mr. Kambole, one of the directors at ABSA, then previously called Barclays. I taught the likes of Tavo Kawana.
Yeah.
I taught the likes of K Smash, who we know as Kalumba Chikonde.
Yeah.
So they gave me this classroom. I was very smart then because
what year group were they in at that point?
I took them in when they started. I think they were just finishing off grade 5. Going into grade 6.
So primary. Okay.
Yeah, it was primary.
So how old was director Tabo Kawana when you taught him?
He was very young.
How young?
Very, very young.
Grade what?
He was I can't remember.
Only because looking at you, I can't fathom for the love of God how old you are, considering you taught the likes of Tabo Kawana.
Well, I was young. Don't forget, I finished school quite young. I finished school while I'm talking to you. I'll be scrolling, and hopefully I find the picture of Tabo Kawana and the other,
Oh, that would be interesting. Please send it to me.
But the naughty
in the khaki shorts.
Yeah, the one was quite naughty. Was K Smash. But among I think he's come out to be the quieter one.
That's interesting. How was Mr. Kawana as a student, as a young boy?
Very quiet, but very intelligent, and he enjoyed his meal.
Interesting.
So many times I caught him eating in class.
The last program he was caught eating actually. So this is quite interesting. I did tell him the director we're going live in a few minutes. Don't start eating. Either that or turn your camera off. That's fascinating.
So, but you see, amazingly, all of them, people have told me, I don't know how true it is, that they end up speaking just like me. How true that is, I don't know. In terms of emphasis, in terms of punctuation, and so on and so forth.
What did you teach them?
I was specifically teaching English physical education. And sometimes when other teachers are not available, then I would teach all the other subjects.
You cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, yes.
And then I went to go on.
A few of them have said that they found themselves emulating the way you pronounce words and emphasize on certain intonation and that sort of stuff. So just to back your assertion that they've ended up speaking like you do.
Yeah. And then after that, I went to teach at Monali Secondary School. And then as well at Monali, that, you know, I went to, I used to play in the Rising Stars, I think. Let me rewind the clock. When I was in grade 5, I used to play in the Rising Stars. The Rising Stars, the group. There it is. That's me in the.
Lovely. Unfortunately, I can see, but the viewers can't see the pictures.
Can't see,
At the end of the program, I will collect all the pictures and then we can put them together.
Yeah. So I went to the studio because I was in charge of Wildlife and Chongololo Club. And they were interviewing me on the radio. When they were interviewing me, then Ambassador Frank Mutubila, they let Lazarus Kanyungu, they let Peter Mwemba, and they let Man Sichalwe rushed to the studio. And I said, who is that? That voice, that guy, don't let him go. And that's how they came.
Voice.
Yeah, they came to the studio and they asked me if I was interested. I said, interested in what? Is interested in joining them. I said, no. They said, well, just give it a try. Can we just at least try and audition you? And then we can reschedule an appointment. And there and then they did an audition. And within 2 days, they got in touch with me. And that's how I got the job. I started with Radio 2, which was called General Service then. And I presented quite a number of programs there. At the birth of Radio Mulungushi, called Radio 4, they now moved some of us that they felt were able to deliver. You'll be shocked to learn that Francis Ndovi also taught me how to DJ in the house, and I taught him how to be master of ceremonies. So we collaborated in that effect, and it became competitive and so on and so forth. And and the rest is history, and that's how I got into.
Great. That is quite a tale. Now, I'm very interested in finding out how you found yourself being spotted by this flamboyant president.
I never looked back. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have.
There was a time there was talk within government of the second president going for a third term in office. And he kept on saying, no, I don't want to go for the third term. I don't want to go for a third term, and so on and so forth. But other people were busy campaigning for him. And one day he came to our training institute at where we were training, and he hosted a luncheon for us. We were in our final year, and he says, whoever is going to be the highest at this training institute, I'll give him a job. And thankfully, I was the highest in public relations and communications, and journalism, broadcast journalism. And that's how I was the second highest, actually, because the highest was a foreign national, so he had to leave Zambia. And automatically I assumed the
Position.
the highest position.
Yeah.
And that's how he gave me the job as senior private secretary to him, and also periodically assisting the then press aide.
Senior private secretary. That's a very high position for someone who's just sort of kind of coming up.
I was the youngest then.
How did you find?
Young.
Yes.
I was only 20. Then.
How did you find the experience?
Day one, I was told, we're going to make sure you're fired.
Oh, who said
by
this?
By different people. Not by the president, not by other people, but I found solace because the chief of staff then covered my back, and the permanent secretary also covered my back, because I went to them and told them, listen, I'm not sure if this could be for me, but I'm being told. They said, no, we'll take care of that. So I went told my to resign or finish it. And it was challenging because every time you had to look over your shoulder, but it was very interesting, very, very interesting. The most exciting job ever in my life, to work for the #1 office in the land. I loved it, and the president loved me.
Excellent. We're going to take a pause right now, and I just want to hear from our viewers. Are you able to hear us well? Because I could detect some interruptions during the period that Chella was speaking, or is it just from my end? So if you are able to hear us clearly, please just type in a quick yes. And whilst you're doing that, I'll very quickly read some comments from Mauluku Nangunyi, sorry if I murdered your name, saying hello, I'm watching from Lusaka. DJ CJ Elas Chanda, Teddy Nyambe saying he was my brother's friend in Chipata. Oh gosh, you have traveled Zambia. Quite a few comments actually, just very excited that you're around. Where did they think you had gone to?
Well, some people thought I had died, and
why would they think that?
because the rate of deaths in our industry is quite high.
Yeah, that is very true. That
is
very true. I want to hear if our just a second, sorry, Chella. I want to hear if our viewers can actually hear us correctly. Dr. Munja is saying, you kamu I, what is that? Speaking English, Munja, a problem you have actual.
No. He was, Dr. Munja, I think is saying, he was repeating, he's laughing about my headmaster who was telling us, don't speak Zambian English.
Oh, so I see. Oh, I see. I'm with you. And he says he's enjoying the interview, which is great. And somebody, okay, let me pronounce this right. Alphonsius H. Hamanganje says, my teacher, Lusaka Boys Secondary School. Doesn't that just make you proud and a little bit happy?
Yes, I remember him. He was a chubby fella.
Yeah.
Intelligent. He was #1 in mathematics.
Wow.
He was
You've got such an incredible memory. You remember your students. I'm going to be
because I had a
practicing.
one-to-one relationship with them. Don't forget, I opened my house to them, my parents' house then, because I was still living at my parents' house. So they would come to my home. I had a one-to-one relationship with them.
Wow. Yeah.
So they were my friends. I was young.
Yeah. That is lovely. That is really lovely. Alphonsius, Chella remembers you. Apparently, you were a little bit chubby and very intelligent. So that's good.
16.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can loud and clear.
Mwelwa from TVBAKWETU says, explains the chewing. Mwelwa, you can't be saying things like that about our director.
No, he's our director. Let's give him credit.
You can't.
I'm sorry, director, if I get out the cut. But this, as a blame it on Linda, don't blame it on me.
No, I'm not taking the blame. It's all you. I did not do anything.
Ask me how he was.
It's got nothing to do with me. I don't want to get in trouble with the director of this director of filing the filer. And another message from Chipelo Chiwe, really happy that you are here. The original DJs of what was Radio Mulungushi. Now, I remember, for me, this is novelty, and it's kind of like, okay, it will sound very corny saying dream come true. I mean, you were the people that we looked up to when we were still at school, and then finished school, went to journalism school, and then we're like the CJ DJ. By the way, Chella Katwishi, and just the way you introduced yourself, it was so smooth. And I was like, I wonder what I could call myself. So that was, any young journalist, and a lot of journalists that are working at Diamond TV and some at ZNBC will remember this. We were taught press English and press law by Ronin Kandu's dad, and we'll be practicing, and he'll be like, do you see how this person pronounces words? Now, he'll give us clips of things that you had done, and we had to kind of produce our own. So it was all very exciting for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite exciting.
Wow.
Quite a lot of comments. I think we'll come back to the comments. I wanted to know a little bit more about, because when I had previously had a conversation with you and Chavala Chimpampa and Doreen Mukanzo in the background, and Frank Mutubila actually, they've all told me about the experience that you had when President Kaunda was in office, and you used to go to these amazing tea parties, coffee parties. What did you used to call them?
We used to call them morning breakfast with the press.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Those were very interesting and interactive. And I wish and pray of, with due respect to the other former president, but President H7 reminds me so much of President Mwanawas and President Chiluba, you know, because he calls a spade, and I love that about him. And I wish he introduced that, because he so desperately wants to know what's happening on the ground. But number one, don't forget, if you're in the presidency, I'll give you an example, because I worked in the office of the presidency.
You did, yes.
As in running his office. Every morning at 5 in the morning, you wake up and, you know, open his office. You make sure all is checked. There are no, you know, nothing sinister. You look at his diary, and then at exactly 6:30, you pick up the phone, call the president, give him the rundown of diary and who he's going to see. He tells you who he doesn't want to see, and so on and so forth, and you basically manage it that way. Now, the morning breakfast worked to the advantage of Dr. Kaunda. may his soul rest in peace, because it came up by, I beg your pardon, by Mr. Mark Chona.
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. So what happened was President Kaunda would invite a group of journalists and broadcasters from ZNBC, and he would invite a group of broadcasters from Zambia Daily Mail, Zambia National Information Services, which is called Zambia News Agency, and the Times of Zambia, and the National Mirror, which was more like a church press, newspaper, which was run by Jumbe Ngoma then. And all of us would meet there, and the president, Dr. Kaunda, would tell all the waiters at State House, all the catering officers at State House to step aside, and he would, save us with tea, coffee, or water, and he would give each one of us a pen. Each one of us a pen. And when we asked him, why are you giving us a pen? He says, because you people, I want you to write, to use the power of the pen, not to abuse it, because the pen can either build or destroy.
Yeah.
So he created that rapport between the media. So every time there was a press conference at State House, we already had that relationship, that one-on-one.
Can I just pause you on that momentarily? Do you think the New Dawn government has built that relationship between themselves as well as the media?
Yes, he's trying. Why do I say yes? Because he's the first president to have opened the doors after being sworn in to go live, not recorded, live interview, to be
a lot of things could go wrong on a live. I listened to that. It was fascinating.
And he's highly intelligent.
Yeah.
Very highly intelligent. So the way he handled that showed me that he's created that rapport. And don't forget, rewind the clock. Yeah. With due respect to the politicians, as broadcasters, we're supposed to be non-partisan and impartial in the way we present these issues about politics and so on and so forth. President Hakainde Hichilema, when he was in opposition, he moved from media house to media house. So he already created that rapport with the media.
But he didn't seem to appear on all the media platforms, though, truth be told.
He did. No, he did. It's just that people did not pay attention.
ZNBC, very rarely did they give them the platform to appear on there.
Because they were, number one, probably scared of their own shadow. I speak not on behalf of ZNBC, but I speak as an ex-employee of ZNBC who managed to see one transition of government from the Kaunda government to the Chiluba government. When you're at ZNBC, nobody tells you don't do this or don't write that. We're scared of your own shadow. And when you write, sometimes State House will come breathing fire on you, particularly the overzealous, officers, or sometimes the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting will come breathing fire on you. And
do you think things have changed, Chella? Do you think things have changed now, looking at how ZNBC was operating during the Patriotic Front regime compared to the New Dawn government, the United Party for National Development? Do you think anything has changed in their reporting?
Yes, it has changed. I mean, let's give them credit.
Okay.
They are trying.
Could you cite an example where you feel things have changed?
I'll give you an example. Number one, their public relations manager, Anne Muhango Mukabe, good friend of mine. She's trying as much as possible to speak on behalf of the corporation, to project the right image of ZNBC, to tell the employees of ZNBC to say, you are ZNBC. because when you open your mouth, you speak, you are representing ZNBC. And every time a broadcaster from ZNBC is visiting, who is abroad, or is living away from Zambia, ZNBC opened their doors to us.
Yes,
to
I've
go and
noticed that.
give a talk on how it was then. And it is entirely up to the current crop to what it is today. The second example I'll give you, when we lost our president, former president Rupiah Banda, who we fondly refer to as RB, the coverage, the way they covered the funeral procession, fantastic.
Compared to KK.
Oh yeah, in the past you could have seen probably, the cutaways, of opposition leaders probably not being, when somebody's talking about the way the director handled that.
Yeah.
Because when they talked about, when whoever is speaking about President Lungu, they would pan and cut away to President Lungu.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they're talking about Dr. Desai, they would pan and cut away to Dr. Desai.
Yeah.
Now, that for me is professionalism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you have a look at when, sadly, our founding father passed away, the very first few minutes, even hours, they were playing cartoons on the national broadcasting station.
Yeah.
That was just a travesty, because you would think that.
It's the answer. Because that was a breaking story.
Yeah.
That should have been the time to bring people like Frank Mutubila, people like Maureen Nkandu, people like Doreen Mukanzo, who had a one-to-one interaction with the president.
Absolutely. That's how I got to know Doreen Mukanzo, actually, who later on became a very good friend. And also Winegood Malunga. Let's not forget Winegood Malunga.
Exactly. Winegood Malunga, exactly.
And an incredible relationship with President
Jeff
Chiluba.
Sitali.
Yeah. And we are going forward with the New Dawn government, because there are a lot of legendary broadcasters, if you like, who are living abroad. Mark Bota, who is an incredible friend right now. And then he was in like dad's or granddad's age group, and you used to look up to them like, oh my God, these are mythical creatures. But ZNBC could have tapped in. Tune in to Mark Botti, wherever he is, somewhere in the Netherlands, or I can't remember.
He's in the Netherlands,
Yes. Just have a live broadcast. Ask him about his experience. Those people had so much interactions with the president. Such a travesty. And I'm hoping that the New Dawn government can tap into talents like yours, those broadcasters who've been and not quite gone, but you've moved on to other things. So I think that would be quite wonderful to see the old and the new working together to enhance this thing that they've created. I want to take you slightly back. Time with President Chiluba. So he appointed you, and later on he fired you. I'm interested in that story. How did you get fired, Chella? What did you do?
I don't know what I did. It may sound a silly question, but to be honest, I don't know what I did.
Surely you must have a clue.
But that said, when I was called, I was placed on. First, let me talk about the job. The job was good. I had everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Everything.
Give an example, like what?
Money.
Fame.
And when you're carrying yourself, you're representing the president. There were so many. When I was fired, first of all, I was placed on an indefinite suspension, and then I remember then general manager of the Post newspaper, Joe Kaunda, good friend of mine, came to interview me at my home. And I said, Joe, why? Why did they send you? Why couldn't they send somebody else? Why you? Is it that they want you to dig out the information from me? And, then the following day, there was a front page on the Post that Chella Katwishi has been fired for immaturity. What's the term? I can't remember. But all sorts of unpalatables that were attributed.
Just to pause you just momentarily, is that the same immaturity that Mr. Dennis Liwewe was referring to several years prior?
I don't know, because
or alleged or seeming immaturity, because people can misunderstand one's actions for immaturity.
Exactly. But you see, when you're immature, you cannot be able to see that you're immature. Because you're in your own line.
Immature state.
Exactly. If I come on this platform and I start flashing out pounds, to me, it's prestige. To others, it's immaturity.
Okay.
To me, I'm showing people that this is me, but I'm sending wrong signals to other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
For example, I'll give you an example. If I go in a public place and people are having a beer, I'll go to the barman and tell the barman, listen, barman, can you give everyone what they're drinking? And everything is in the house for the next hour or something. That's my money that I felt I should give back to the people.
Yeah.
But whether that was censored immaturity, I don't know. Again, to answer your question, I don't know why I was fired.
Okay. So alleged, should we just call it alleged immaturity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, alleged immaturity because later on, 10 years later, don't forget, after I was fired, I suffered, Linda. I went on to move to a big house. I couldn't go to my parents' house. But I went on to move into a 1-room, 7th quarter, where you go and use the toilet outside.
Very humbling.
So I suffered. And everywhere I would go and make an application for a job, I couldn't get it.
Because you were sacked by the president?
I don't know. I don't know what the employers were thinking, but hats off to great Ero Hickey.
Oh, the legendary Ero.
He took me on and said, listen, I'm taking this young man on. Of course, he told me in confidence. There was a little bit of pressure. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. That there was a little bit of pressure from government that I should get fired. But he put his foot down. And we started receiving bullets left, right, and center.
You must have ruffled a few feathers for people to be calling for your firing.
There were so many stories, like I said, that, Chella Katwishi has been fired because he was shooting guns in the air at Shentemba, or he's been fired because he's impregnated somebody, or he's been fired because he had an affair with the first lady. There were so many stories.
Was that one of the stories that you had an affair with Vera?
Yeah. There were so many stories.
Yeah.
All heaped on me.
I can now see, Chella, if you've been accused of having had an affair with the first lady, why it would be a little bit tricky to get a job in the media industry.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there were so many stories, and unfortunately, these stories were coming not from the presidency, but from colleagues that probably I had worked with.
Yeah. And also you have to remember that in our culture, for some bizarre reason, I would like to say that it doesn't happen anymore, but sadly it does. And just recently, I've been a recipient of at the receiving end, where people, for some reason, they just feel like they can make something up and think that it can stick.
Yeah. But you see, for me, what kept me going is God.
So this is where we come into picking up the pieces.
Because Linda, I knew in my soul, in my heart, I did not do anything wrong. In my soul, in my heart, the only mistake I made was to be loved by the President of the Republic of Zambia. Why he loved me, I don't know.
Did you ever reconcile afterwards?
This is where I'm coming to. This he told me himself. 10 years down the line, after suffering, I wanted, in between the suffering, I wanted to leave the country and go and do my master's degree in international journalism. And sadly, I didn't have any money. And my parents told me, listen, we will help you where we can, but only if you help yourself. And hence, Njikata was now born.
Hang on, pause right there. So, are you the one who came up with, Chella, just a minute there. Are you the one who came up with this phrase, Friday Njikata?
People call me Njikata.
Ah.
And I will explain to you why they call me Njikata.
Ah, okay.
Because I started playing music to make money to survive. When Erohiki took me on, he gave me a platform, may his soul rest in peace, to have sponsored programs, which I got from the late, Dr. Manasseh Piri and other international organizations, from International Labor Organization, World Health Organization, and so on and so forth. And that's how I survived. UNDP, all sorts of international organizations, and that's how I survived. Apart from that, I coupled it doing Friday in Njikata. I called it Friday in Njikata, Saturday in Dekelako, Sunday.
I remember that.
Yeah. Friday Njikata.
And
Saturday
Monday
Dekelako. But Sunday Kulondolola. Exactly. You see, so the name Njikata came from the fans. The first show was packed to capacity. So they said, this guy, Anina Wulimbo, which means Ati Donsa. You know what Wulimbo means? Magnet.
Yeah, of course.
Like glue. Yeah.
Glue.
Ati Donsa. So Ati Guirani, Ninjikata, you know, you are caught in the cobweb. Hence the name Njikata.
Yeah.
So from Mulungushi, we moved from a side room at Mulungushi Conference Center, we moved into the main hall, and I filled up downstairs and upstairs. It was packed to everywhere I went, and we now started moving from place to place. From there, moved to Oasis, from Oasis to Tortries, to Ridgeway Campus. Where didn't I go? I did it all for the love of ensuring that I raised the money. So it was tough.
And there's a phrase, kwasa kwasa, mulungushi, kwasa kwasa.
Exactly.
Did you come up with that as well?
No, I didn't. That came up from the Congolese musicians. What's his name? Kanda Bongo Man.
Can you just remind us of the actual phrase? Because I'm scantily kind of remembering vaguely the phrases.
The way Congolese musicians come up, when they release a song, they always come up with a term, and all the musicians are copying it.
Like a strap line.
Like a strap line. So At the time, it was kwasa kwasa, which was the in thing then. The only musician who was different was Chalamwana.
Oh, yes.
Who had Hamutwashi, songs and so on and so forth. So back to the story of President Chiluba. When I went to do my master's degree in international journalism at Cardiff University, I then went back to go and teach and train all the broadcasters from all corners of Zambia under the Media Institute of Southern Africa, MISA. And MISA had a program of honoring and awarding journalists and broadcasters. And one of the functions, I was master of ceremonies, and President Chiluba was guest of honor. So he was the former president. So I introduced myself. I got the
Interesting. Yeah. You sucked me
after 10 years.
Now. After 10 years.
After 10 years.
How do you say hello to a man who unceremoniously got rid of you?
Exactly. So I said, finally, we've met.
We meet.
So I got the microphone and I introduced myself. I said, from the world of broadcasting to the world of, from the world of teaching to the world of broadcasting, and then was appointed by second Republican president, Dr. Frederick Chiluba.
Whoa.
And then was quickly fired that non-Jikata in State House. And then he turned round. He was sitting this way. I was standing behind him as a guest of honor. Then he turned round and then he laughed and clapped in the air.
Chiluba had a wicked sense of humor, didn't he?
Yeah. And then after we finished, then he sent his bodyguard, his aide-de-camp, to call me that he wanted to speak to me. So I went there. I knelt down because that's what we used to do every time we speak to him anyway.
Yeah.
So I knelt down and he says, yeah. And he says to me, oh, Bakatwishi Munishan, Ningomfat Nari Mitamfia. The chachi never nina ni mitamfia. But Banjeleleko.
Really?
Pafiri botwa pangire. Namuba palikatuka shitatule konkalesa kabumba. So amangwingwi abantu nse bale ndetela alengele ukwebati tupusane nomba palikano shita nalisa sanga ukwebati amangwingwi, which means rumors.
Yeah.
Bale ndetela tayari ya chineyo. So there and then I cried.
Oh. It would take someone really strong not to cry.
Yeah. I asked him, why did you fire me? Only young, I was only 22. Why? Yeah. More like crying out to a father to say, "Why you cut off my future?"
Yeah, Nishnach Tile. Where did I go wrong?
Exactly.
Chella, interestingly enough, your story sounds awfully familiar with my chat with Martin Kalungubanda. And it's so sad that our people carry on doing this. You have a glimpse of hope, someone who's talented, someone who's the best at their craft, and they're trying to make a difference. And among the rumors, people who are very good at that sort of stuff, they still go behind. And this thing is still happening, even in the Hichilema Nalumango administration. How do you think that can be rectified?
I think that apart from how do I put it? Apart from the one machinery that reports out every employee to the president, there ought to be an autonomous way of receiving reports like the way it is in the United States, where you have the FBI, the CIA, and so on and so forth. With due respect to the one institute that we have, in Zambia.
Mm.
And also the you see, I've never been president. I can't tell because I know for a fact that even when I was running the office of the president, there were people who are relatives coming to bring a bad report to me to give the president, and immediately that relative leaves and the other relative comes to give the report about the other one, backstabbing each other, all in the name of, no, he doesn't deserve this job, this person doesn't deserve to be this, or he doesn't deserve to be appointed, or he doesn't deserve that. But you see, when God says yes, nobody can say no.
Yeah. So how do you pick up the pieces in that instance? For you've picked up the pieces. You are in the United Kingdom. You've started afresh. It wasn't easy. But for someone who's listening in, Martin Kalungubanda has done the same, picked up the pieces. He was unceremoniously got rid of by President Mwanawasa, who later on, luckily enough, saw the errors of his ways, even despite the fact that these people are in very powerful offices, but they've got that humility to come back and say, I'm really sorry. I listened to, like President Chiluba would say, Mangwingwe, the rumors and people saying all sorts of things in my ear. But how do you pick up the pieces if you're currently going through what you went through?
Number one, you wait on God. Because when I was fired, three reasons, three things to do, which ran through my thought. Number one, hit back.
Natural instinct.
Natural instinct. Number two, pick up my pieces and move on. Number three, take my life.
Did you actually consider that?
Three things ran through. Linda, I'm telling you what went through my mind.
Really?
Yes.
Now, on the last one, actually, can I just zero in slightly on that? Because this is happening so much in today's world. Just the past, I would say, 8 weeks, there has been more than 3 young people who've taken their own lives because one, either they're being accused of things that they're not, others because they're not sure about their identity, they're not sure if they're gay or straight, they can't navigate through that season, so they decide the easy option is to take their own lives. Others, older people, they owe so much money and they can't cope. They feel taking their own lives is the option. How did you stay away from taking your own life? At what point did you think, okay, this is not an option? It is on the list, but I'm not going to do that.
They let Ero Hiki and a person who I consider my mom, Miss Doreen Mkanzo.
Incredible woman.
And the church as well played a major role.
How?
To say the truth shall set you free. And indeed, the truth did set me free. I've never seen it in my life, Linda, where a president fires you and 10 years down the line, he apologizes to you. Never. I've never seen it in my life. It happened not because I'm wise, not because I'm any important. It happened because of the will of God. It was hard, Linda. Imagine you walk in a pub, or a restaurant, and they say, oh, hold on to your ladies, gentlemen. They don't mention names. They've seen you walk in a pub, and they say, hold on to your ladies. And in my mind, I'm saying, oh, they're referring to the fact that there is one story that I was fired because of one allegation, one of the allegations that allegedly I had an affair with the second president's wife, when in fact not. So hold on to your ladies because Chella is going to take your wife.
Yeah.
And all that is happening when you lose your job, you lose your marriage, and you're living in a one-roomed house. Your friend ends up having an affair with your wife then.
Oh.
And then you're asking yourself, why are all these blocks falling on me? What is so special?
How did you find that out?
What wrong have I done?
Chella, how did you find out that your wife was having an affair with your friend?
When you work for State House, you create friends in the system. So the system told me.
Gosh. And what did you do?
I picked up the phone and said, what is this I hear? And she refused. I said, I've got pictures here. So, it was hard, Linda, where I ended up enrolling myself in a school of love, because I don't blame my ex-wife, I blame myself. Because when a wife becomes adulterous, yeah, it means she's probably seeking attention. Because when I asked her, why did you do that? She says, no, because you were not there. Where was I? No, you were busy with Njikata, every four corner of Zambia. But who was I making the money for?
The family. It's a tricky one.
But then you see, that said, every action, there's a reaction.
Yeah, there's an equal reaction.
So my action gave a reaction.
Yeah.
And what did I do? Instead of me blaming my ex-wife, I started picking up one or two pieces of what I did wrong in my first marriage. And I had vowed never, ever to get married.
Really? What changed? Let's talk about happy things now.
And I had vowed never, ever to accept an appointment.
Oh, really?
From anyone.
Has that changed? Because can I just tell you this? This station is notorious for hosting people without knowing, and then a little while later they're appointed. If you have a look at the people who kind of passed through our hands, pretty much quite a few of them have taken up positions in government or other institutions. So you might be coming back, changing your minds, Mr. Katwishi.
Well, put it this way.
Would you say no if the government's called 2 days later and said, well, you've got this experience that we feel and the skill sets that we feel our media, the State House media team could do with?
Well, first of all, if ever such a thing happened, number one, I'm not lobbying. Number two, I'm very happy where I am. I'll take you to what I'm doing now.
Yeah. We'll leave that to the end. I've got a couple more questions. I need to explore a little bit more, and then we'll come to the happy ending. Too many sad stories.
When a president asks you to work with his government, it's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
It means the president has seen something valuable in you.
Yeah.
And he wants you to help the nation move forward, to contribute to the development of the country.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what went through my mind then. Two things that I had vowed. 5 years down the line, my mind was changed. Today, you see this band of love called the wedding band. I ended up marrying not in Zambia. I ended up leaving the country because I was too ashamed over what had happened to me.
So you run, Chella, you run. You didn't come.
Yes. Because if I didn't run, I don't think I'll be here today.
Really?
No.
Who did you marry out of interest? And how did you meet?
A beautiful lady.
Obviously.
Who was born and brought up in the United Kingdom. And she's very much Zambian. Her parents are very much Zambian. Her name is Lulu. Big family it is. And I love her to death. We've been married now for the past 15 years. We dated for 5 years.
Congratulations.
And the first time when we got married, she said to me, she wants all my kids. And she put up all my kids together, regardless of which mother or whatever mother they
had. How many were they?
You will know them when I'm dead.
Linda. No, we cannot do that.
When they call to say, we now have all the children to the deceased.
We are not doing that. We are not doing that. I personally have vowed we are not celebrating people when they're dead. Uncle Frank Mtula is going to turn 70. We will celebrate him now.
Yeah.
We need to know what you've been up to. You've been sowing your royal oats. How many kids do you have, Chella? I know about one.
Enough to make me happy. Put it that way. They're all united, and I love all of them, honestly speaking. And I owe it to my wife now. Because the things I'm doing, like, when I remarried, mistakes I made in my first marriage, I make sure I'm not making them. Like right now, I'm in one of a very luxurious hotel. Why? Because yesterday was my wife's birthday. So she's the one who was in the background. I think you saw a lady doing me my makeup and everything. Yeah. She's the one who was doing the mix. She's taking the kids out for dinner and so on and so forth.
That's nice.
These are things I never did.
That is wonderful.
I never did
so
this.
Happy for you. So happy for you.
I learned from my mistakes. Remember, no one goes to school to go and learn how to love a woman. I had to enroll myself, Linda, in a love school to understand what a woman was.
Well, you could write a book. Now, tell us a bit more about that love school. And viewers, thank you very much. The numbers are not dropping. You are listening intently, which is fantastic. But the only thing is, I can't see any stars. Mrs. Katwishi, he forbids me from calling him Mr. Katwishi because we are broadcasters. Chella. Chella is dropping some pearls of wisdom, and you're not sending stars. Why? By YouTube sending gifts, but Facebook, don't be outdone by the YouTubers. Would be lovely to see some stars being sent, because this is how we run TVBAKWETU. It's a voluntary network. We're all voluntary broadcasters because we love our country. We do it for free. This is 21:59. Chella is in the same country as I am. It's nearly 22 hours, but we're here entertaining you, educating, and providing some comfort to some of the people who may be going through similar situations that some of our viewers are going through. So the least you could do is send some stars so that we can maintain these platforms, and it doesn't pay anyone anything. It just maintains the virtual broadcasting platform that we use. Thank you very much. Mary says network is buffering. Linda, yes, I think I've noticed that. I think we're in England, but we blame Vazesko for everything. Mary, if I'll be honest, I live in a very remote area, so network is really dodgy. But you live in London. Where are you? I didn't even ask.
In Blackheath.
Blackheath. I mean, that is like in central London.
Yeah.
Hey, it's got to be me because we live mudiole, like proper diole, you know. There's
Yeah.
our neighbors are cows and sheep and all that sort of stuff. So we're waiting for Nishan 4G network. Is it?
4G
But
network, yeah.
yeah,
5G actually.
5G. In fact, yes, 5G.
Yeah.
Lovely. Now, what I want to find out from you is, someone says sound. What's wrong with the sound? Can you be specific, please? Interesting story, but challenge is network. That is very true. But thank you very much that you haven't left. It's very, very kind of you. The other thing I want to find out from you is something that I'm really passionate about: etiquette when it comes to people who are in power, especially the media team at State House. What should the etiquette be? Because I'm seeing a lot of things that probably fun for the people who are actually in the media team. You know, you can post things, you're posing, but there's so many implications, like very, very serious implications. And this is nothing to do with the usual kind of spill, so to speak, like, oh, it's jealousy, it's because it's not you enjoying this. I'll give you an example. If you go to a foreign country with the Republican president and you're posing at a particular area, you're putting your commander-in-chief at risk. Isn't that true, Chella?
Yes and no.
Okay. Explain yes and no.
When you travel with the president, after your chores are done, mind you, the office of the president is very busy, and regardless of whether you've traveled outside country, it still runs the way it's supposed to run when you're at State House. So it still runs. Does that make sense? I'll be very, very careful there not to breach security.
Of course.
Yeah. So, however, there is time when you are let go. Okay, it's time for the president to take leave.
Katusha Nico, go and chill, go and relax.
You have to get permission from the president, you know, to leave after all the programs are done, because the president may want you anyway. So after that, it does not mean you can do whatever you want. It means you have to discipline yourself and ask yourself, I'm working for the president. And because I'm working for the president, I am running the office of the presidency. Whatever I say or do represents the presidency. Have I answered your question?
You have, yes. And it's one of those.
Whatever I say or do, even if I'm off, even if it's in my spare time, if I open my mouth, I'm speaking on behalf of the presidency.
Yeah.
Not the president, but the president's, the
office. The office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The office.
Yeah. So if you have that tendency of not keeping your word, you are speaking volumes. If you have a tendency not having integrity, sadly, you are representing that office of the president, not the president, but the presidency, like you said, which is very true. And so we're here not to condemn. We're here not to put anyone down, but to kind of offer the little knowledge that we have acquired over the years to help people, because it's really difficult, isn't it? People will be like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, and people don't want to be told anything. But the importance of this office cannot be overemphasized. It's not about you, the person who are working in that office. It's not even about 007, with all due respect. This is a country that will exist, God willing, several centuries after you, Chella, myself, and the president are long gone. Zambia should exist. So we need to uphold every righteous thing, if you like, that should be upheld to preserve the integrity of the office, the integrity of the country, and everything that is good. Now, I want you to tell us a little bit about. So we've talked about the past. We've talked about a little bit touched on the present. I want to touch on the future, slightly on the present, as in what you're doing, and what are the future plans for Chella Katwishi?
My plan is to adopt. I've already adopted two girls actually. One was adopted when I was 15.
Okay.
The other one I adopted her how many years ago now? I think 4 years ago. And I want to give back to the community. And the reason why I want to give back to the community is because one great man in the name of Great Kalu, I owe him a lot. I wrote to 100 companies, and he was one of those. I can talk about it now because it's in the past. I was in 2003, 2004 when I did my master's degree in international journalism, and he sent me to school. And he kept his commitment, and by paying for my education.
Oh, wow!
And it was on the basis that I would be able to give back the money, on condition that I fail. If I fail, I'll give back the money. If I pass, I should do the same that is done to me.
I love that. Paying it forwards.
Exactly.
I love that. Do you know a little story? Kalu Ifo Chavala, oh my goodness, Debbie Makanga, because my dad was one of the people in Muflira Wanderers who were mentoring the upcoming footballers. So they used to hang out at our house, even though I was quite young. But my cousins remember these stories. Like they'll go and get the powder from Chubumba, you know, the powder because of any Kalu, and they were coming in and stuff like that. But I was very little, and I was the same age as his youngest brother. We went to school together, and we sat in the same desk pretty much. But he had this incredible heart for people, which listening to this story, it just sounds very him.
So to me,
that is amazing.
He's the greatest.
Yeah.
Because
despite people make mistakes, he's made his mistakes. And people dwell on that, but there's a side to him that not many people who don't know him intimately know.
Exactly.
That is amazing.
The future is obviously, I'm aging, and the future is obviously to try and
hardly aging, Chella. Slight exaggeration there.
I'm in my mid-50s, so but my aim is to retire and provide consultancy, most likely all my plans I have, I'll submit them to God, because I can plan all I plan, but if these plans are not God's plans, nothing is going to work.
Yeah.
And in my life, I've always had a 7-point plan of everything that I do, and I always ensure that I stick to this 7-point plan. I intend to open up, a small little training institute to give back to the community by training broadcasters, and everybody's opening radio stations. So if we all open radio stations, who's going to train the staff? The media institutions in Zambia need training.
Yep. You can join Maureen Kandi, who's doing that. That's good.
Yeah, without training, we will have what is called chipante or chintobentobe in the media industry. And the media is going to lose direction to the extent that they will not be doing their research when they're covering a story.
Mm-hmm.
They will, in our times, the young generation was told, you want to learn English? Turn on the radio.
Yeah.
I ask you, is this the same today in Zambia?
No.
With due respect to my media colleagues, if it's not the same, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
And where's the problem? The problem is the people, I blame it on the people that are being accorded licenses because they're in it for the money, not for the love of the job. Most of them, not all of them, most of them. I'll give you an example. I admire Chella Katwishi and Mama and Mr. Chavula from Hot FM, Oscar Chavula. I admire the way they are running their institutions because they've been in broadcasting, so they know. Gesh has even opened up an academy to train DJs on how it was then during our times. It breaks my heart to learn that some media institutions have not been paid. Broadcasters go without being paid because the marketing department has not collected the money. We never waited to be paid. We used our common sense to get up, go and do a Friday in Jakarta to supplement our income and put our kids in these private schools, which surpassed our salaries. So if there's a problem, ours should not be to condemn. Ours should be, what solution can we provide? Yeah.
Yeah. What is the danger in not paying journalists well and on time?
The danger is they will not write the authentic stories that they're supposed to write. They would depend on their sources. And now, if a journalist or a broadcaster depends on a source to get transport and they're going to write a story about that politician, they're not going to write the true story, because in the first place, they've been compromised by taking a lift from that politician, by having lunch with that politician or being provided lunch because they don't have money for lunch, because they're not paid handsomely, because most of the so-called licenses have been given to businessmen who are in it for the money, not for the passion of the job, but for you're telling me, TVBAKWETU, that it's for the passion. You're doing it, for the love of the job. You understand where I'm coming from? Not because you're comfortable living in the countryside of England. No, but you're doing it for this time. It's a Sunday, for crying out loud. It's a family day. You could be with your husband, with the kids, your family, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's for the passion, for the love of the job.
Yeah. That is very true. Viewers,
when old-time broadcasters come to help you, they're going to take your job. The last time I was in Zambia in 2019, I went to Hot FM, and the late Zach Chavula said, you're not leaving until you motivate my colleagues in the broadcasting industry. And Hot FM colleagues will tell you that I did share my story to motivate them. And I hope they were.
And I hope you will continue motivating all of us and motivating other journalists. Viewers, this has been the Linda Banks Show on TVBAKWETU. And my guest tonight has been Chella Katwishi, the legendary broadcaster. And we've been unpicking a little bit about him picking up the pieces after being sacked by the second president of the Republic of Zambia, President Chiluba. And we've also talked about how he nearly married into the Liwewe family, and we touched a little bit on press etiquette and various other interesting topics. We have been broadcasting on TVBAKWETU and on the Elias Mucha page, as well as the Linda Banks page on Facebook. Thank you so much for having joined us on this really lovely and low-key conversation. Until next time, it's good night from me and Chella. Last remarks? Good night.
Last remarks is, let's continue supporting TVBAKWETU. And when something is good, remember, there's only one Zambia. No one applied to be born a Zambian or a British national or an American national or whatever country they were born. We just found ourselves to be born. So we differ in opinion. Let's try and correct each other amicably and build our Zambia together as one. To the broadcasters, I say this: be original, be yourself, do your research, be real. Don't be a copycat. Don't speak like Chella Katwishi or don't speak like Frank Mutubila or anybody else who's got a unique voice, or the late Peter Mwemba, or or Margaret Zimba, or Sasi Sarah, or Maureen Nkandu. Be yourself, be original, do your research, and mark my words, negativity is not juiciness in broadcasting. Negativity is not juiciness, because sometimes you burn your fingers, and when you burn your finger, it will be very difficult to blow the fingers once they're burnt.
Thank you very much, Chella. It's been a pleasure having you. Good night, viewers. Till next time, God bless you and God bless our country.